2 hours ago, the Treasury Department made a move nobody saw coming. The United States government, currently bombing Iran, just lifted sanctions on 140 million barrels of Iranian oil sitting in tankers at sea. Not a typo, not a mistake. America is at war with Iran and just gave Tehran permission to sell oil worth more than $14 billion on global markets. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent posted the announcement on social media with a phrase that should win awards for absurdity. "We will be using the Iranian barrels against Tehran to keep the price down as we continue Operation Epic Fury." Translation: we are bombing you while helping you sell oil so Americans can afford gas. The contradictions get worse. Donald Trump spent years attacking Barack Obama for sending cash to Iran as part of the 2015 nuclear deal. He called it the worst agreement in history. He said Obama gave Iran billions of dollars and a pathway to nuclear weapons. He withdrew the United States from the deal in 2018 and reimposed crushing sanctions designed to starve the Iranian regime of revenue. Maximum pressure was the strategy. Cut off their money and they collapse. That was the theory. Now Trump is not just easing sanctions, he is authorizing Iran to sell oil during an active shooting war. The Iranian regime gets revenue. The American president gets lower gas prices before the midterm elections, and the contradiction goes completely unacknowledged. But before we break down just how economically desperate this makes Washington look, if you find this analysis valuable, hit that subscribe button and drop a like so you never miss coverage like this. Now let's understand what this oil sanction waiver actually does. The Treasury Department issued what it calls a general license. It allows anyone to purchase Iranian crude oil and petroleum products that were loaded onto vessels by Friday, March 20th. The waiver lasts 30 days through April 19th. It applies only to oil already sitting at sea. Most of that oil is in tankers anchored near China. It was sanctioned, meaning buyers risked American penalties if they touched it. Now those penalties are temporarily suspended. China was buying it anyway at deeply discounted rates. But lifting the sanctions officially lets other countries bid on it. Japan, India, South Korea, European refiners, anyone desperate for oil can now legally purchase Iranian barrels. And Iran, despite Treasury claims that it will have difficulty accessing revenue, will absolutely get paid. The oil trades in yuan, not dollars. The financial system workarounds exist. Tehran is not giving this oil away for free. The official justification is energy price relief. Brent crude hit $112 per barrel on Friday. American gas prices reached 3.88 per gallon, up 29% in 3 weeks. That is 93 cents higher than late February. Diesel is approaching $5 per gallon. Jet fuel prices have more than doubled. United Airlines CEO Scott Kirby told employees on Friday that if prices stay at current levels, the airline faces an extra $11 billion in annual fuel costs. For perspective, United's best year ever produced less than $5 billion in profit. The airline is cutting 5% of flights, off-peak routes, red-eyes, midweek services. Scandinavian airline SAS announced it will cancel 1,000 flights in April alone. The Iran war has delivered the biggest fuel shock to the airline industry since COVID-19, and it is not just airlines. Rising energy costs ripple through supply chains. Manufacturing, shipping, food production, fertilizer. Everything moves on fuel. Inflation is spiking again. The Federal Reserve held interest rates steady this week specifically because of uncertainty around the war. The administration needed to do something visible before economic pain becomes election pain in November. But here is the problem. The 140 million barrels being released equals roughly 1.5 days of global oil consumption. Energy experts are unanimous. This is a band-aid on a gunshot wound. Brett Erickson, managing principal at Obsidian Risk Advisors, told reporters the move signals desperation. If we've reached the point of loosening sanctions on the country we are at war with, we're really running out of options, and Treasury has already burned through its other options. The administration released 172 million barrels from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. It waived the Jones Act to allow foreign ships to move oil between American ports. It lifted sanctions on Russian oil at sea. Yes, Russian oil. The same Russia that is Iran's strategic partner and supplies drones to the Iranian military. None of it worked. Oil prices keep climbing because the fundamental problem remains unsolved. The Strait of Hormuz is closed. 20% of global oil supply moves through that waterway. Iran controls it. As long as tankers fear Iranian missiles, the choke point stays shut. No amount of sanctions relief fixes that. The only solutions are military escorts through the strait or ending the war. Trump asked NATO allies to provide warships for convoy duty. Every single country refused. Germany said it is not NATO's war. The UK will not be drawn into wider conflict. Japan cited legal constraints. Australia said no. Even trying to bribe allies with Iranian oil is not working. And then there is the hypocrisy. For years, Trump hammered Obama over the Iran nuclear deal. He claimed Obama gave Iran $150 billion. He was giving them billions of dollars, Trump said just 2 weeks ago. Worse, he was giving them the right to have the path to a nuclear weapon. Trump sold his base on the idea that Obama enriched a terrorist regime. Now Trump is doing exactly that. He is allowing Iran to sell oil while American bombs fall on Iranian territory. The revenue will fund ballistic missiles, proxy militias, the Revolutionary Guard, everything Trump claims to oppose. Treasury Secretary Bessent claims Iran will have difficulty accessing the money, but analysts are not buying it. The oil sells in yuan. Transactions bypass dollar systems. Tehran has spent years building workarounds. They will get paid. Senator Richard Blumenthal called the move sickeningly, shamefully stupid. He accused the administration of fueling Iran's war machine. Victoria Taylor of the Atlantic Council wrote, "This is unfathomable to me to be simultaneously at war with Iran and waiving sanctions on Iran. This is the third time in 2 weeks Treasury waived sanctions on adversary oil. First Russian oil, now Iranian oil. The pattern reveals something Washington does not want to admit. The administration has lost control of the energy crisis. Every lever has been pulled, reserves tapped, sanctions eased, and oil prices keep rising because the war strategy has no exit." Trump said Friday he is considering winding down the conflict, but the Pentagon confirmed it is deploying thousands more Marines, more troops, not fewer. Iran shows no sign of surrender. It launched missiles at Diego Garcia. It struck refineries in Kuwait and facilities in Abu Dhabi. It hit Israel's Dimona nuclear facility. This is not a war winding down, and the economics keep getting worse. Goldman Sachs says elevated oil prices could last through 2027. The International Energy Agency released 400 million barrels from strategic reserves. That process takes months. By the time that oil hits markets, the damage may be done. United Airlines CEO Kirby is preparing for oil to hit $175 per barrel. Northwest Europe jet fuel reached $239 per barrel, a record. These are structural problems created by a war with no endgame. The administration cannot reopen Hormuz without regional catastrophe. It cannot end the war without looking weak. It cannot sustain high oil prices without economic collapse. So it lifts sanctions on Iranian oil and hopes nobody notices the irony. Here is what makes this historically significant. Trump built his brand on being tougher than Obama. Maximum pressure, no appeasement. He tore up the Iran deal because he said it rewarded bad behavior. Now, under pressure from his own war, he is doing exactly what he condemned. Lifting sanctions, allowing oil sales, enriching the regime. The Iranian government understands this perfectly. Tehran does not need to win militarily. It just needs to keep Hormuz closed and let markets do the rest. Every week oil stays above $100. American political pressure grows. Every gas station posting $4 per gallon sends voters into swing states angry. Every airline canceling flights reminds travelers who started this war. Ambassador Mike Waltz defended the sanctions waiver at a CNN town hall Friday night, calling it very temporary and necessary to defeat the Iranian strategy of driving energy prices so high. But that defense just confirms the real problem. Iran is not losing. Iran is executing a strategy, and that strategy is working. Close Hormuz, spike oil. Watch America's economic toolkit run dry. Force Washington into contradictions it cannot explain. Trump wanted regime change through economic strangulation. He got economic strangulation of his own economy instead. And now 3 weeks into Operation Epic Fury, the United States is buying Iranian oil to ease the pain of fighting Iran. 2 hours ago, the Treasury Department thought this move would look like smart crisis management. 2 hours later, it looks like the clearest sign yet that Washington has no idea how to end what it started. Trump got his war, Iran got its payday, and American voters are left footing the bill at the pump while trying to make sense of a policy that bombs Tehran with one hand and pays them with the other. If this opened your eyes to the contradictions driving American policy in the Middle East, smash that like button, share this with someone who needs to understand what is really happening, and subscribe so you do not miss what comes next.